So, American muscle is as dead as Leafy. Two out of Detroit's big three have dropped their flagship muscle cars in favor of EVs and God knows what else with Chevy. You know, you'd think they would have learned after 2008 that having a million brands isn't smart, and I'm getting sidetracked. The point is, for now at least, the only American muscle car left is the Ford Mustang. And in my opinion, American muscle, as we've known it for the past 70 years or so, is gonna pull a Princess Diana on us. And soon, it's gonna be gone before we even know it. Ah yes, the poster child of a sub 400 credit score, repossessions and straight piping for the sake of attention. This generation's Honda Civic, ladies and gentlemen, they need no introduction. The Dodge Charger and Challenger. Little side note, I'm just gonna focus on the revised version of these cars, not the OG 60s and 70s muscle cars. Anyways, these two lovely cars came out in the late 2000s and are still being produced to this day. However, Dodge has come out and said they're ending production after this year, but that's what? Still 15 years or so of these things being produced? The Charger and Challenger originally debuted with a 6.1 Hemi V8 making 425 horsepower, which was enough to get it up and going 60 in about 4.5 seconds. Now, something to keep in mind with these cars is that these pre-facelift Chargers and Challengers were essentially Frankenstein with Chrysler and Mercedes parts. Even the chassis these were built on came from Mercedes-Benz. And that remains true even to the exact moment that I am recording this audio. Anyways, we'll skip ahead to a little bit of the fun stuff. In 2015, the Charger and Challengers got a facelift, along with a new trim level called the Hellcat. Now, obviously everyone knows what the Hellcat is now, but back then, to say this shook up the automotive world would be an understatement. This thing was so crazy, SRT had to hide it from Dodge during development.
Hey, Peter.
Hey, what's going on?
Is something wrong?
No. Everything's cool right now. Might be some problems later, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Later.
Peter, you get down from that tree this instant!
No! You're gonna yell at me!
You're damn right I'm gonna yell at you!
Let me say that again. SRT knew that the Hellcat was so insane that even a brand like Dodge would have said no. The Challenger and Charger Hellcats debuted to rightfully earned critical acclaim, as at the time, there was nothing else like it, or anything even remotely close. 707 horsepower for 60 grand. That's a Walmart level deal. This car is the automotive equivalent of mom's third boyfriend, just reeking of dollar store alcohol and sucking on Marlboro Red like a sorority girl sucks the football team after a win. Just absolute white trailer trash. But for whatever reason, we are all kind of attracted towards it, not in like any sexual way, but there's almost an aura around it. But it gets even crazier, because now you look over at mom's boyfriend and he's injecting a concoction of liquids into his arms. And then out comes the Dodge Demon. This car is absolutely mental. They took what was effectively a 15-year-old dressed up Mercedes and made it have the fastest 0 to 60 time of any production car ever. If we went over all of the world records this car is absolutely shattered, we would be here all day. All you need to know is that in a straight line, nothing was gonna or is gonna beat this thing. And there's a million other crazy trims like the Hellcat Daytona and the Red Eye. But again, if we went over every cool thing about the Charger or Challenger, we would be here all year. Okay, so with such legendary cars, let's see what Dodge is gonna replace these two with then.
It's good for you.
Oh, so this is what we get. You know, you choose to follow up the last of the true muscle cars that will ever be made with an Italian crossover whose electronics will pull a Waco and go up in flames, and a Tesla with a speaker taped to the back. Well, after that disappointment, let's see how Chevy's doing with their Camaro.
And it's gone.
What?
It's gone. It's all gone.
Great. Now you see, this was a real shame because these Camaros were lethal around a track, which is great. Technically, it makes it a sports car, but whether you think it's a sports car, muscle car, pickup truck, whatever, it doesn't matter. The facts of the case are is that the ZL1 and the SS absolutely slaughtered its European competition on racetracks all over the world. And they had those Tremec 6-speeds, which are literally S-tier transmissions. Oh, they're perfect. Anyways, the SS trim had the LT1 engine, making 455 horsepower and torque. It started at around 39 grand, but after the 1LE trim, it gets put up to about 46 grand, which compared to its overseas competition, the BMW M2, it cost a fraction of the price to put up the same lap times and with an arguably more moddable engine. And I can guarantee that modding the engine would be dirt cheap compared to that BMW. And keep in mind, all of this is just the mid-level performance Camaro. The top trim, the ZL1 1LE, sidetrack, yeah, that really rolls off the tongue. It definitely doesn't sound like the research code name of some bioengineered STD. Anyways, the STD used a supercharged LT4 V8 to make 650 horsepower and torque. This car punched so far above its weight around the Nürburgring, it beat cars like the Porsche 911 Turbo S, both last gen and this current gen, the Porsche 911 GT3, the Nissan GTR, the Ferrari 488, the Lamborghini Huracan, and so many more. If I listed them all, we would be here all year. Keep in mind, the ZL1 was doing all this for around 70 grand. An actual budget supercar killer, unlike the Z06. Anyways, the ZL1 1LE should seriously be considered a Hall of Fame sports car. I can't think of any other performance car that punches this far above its weight for the price that it's at. Not to mention that since it shared the LT engine platform, the LT obviously being the successor to the LS, you can make this go a hell of a lot faster for a lot less money than any other sports car, especially the ones this is competing with. And keep in mind, all of what I just said is just around a standard track, which isn't even this car's traditional home. If you bring one of these to a drag strip and you mod that LT engine just a little bit, it'll smoke anything it goes up against. I think with the rise of automotive channels on YouTube, people have become very used to cars making 1, 2, and even 3,000 horsepower. It's a massive deal if you can make a build that even somewhat reliably makes 1,000 horsepower. And these LT block Camaros do just that. It's a shame that GM decided to cancel the car. Then again, we should come to expect it from a company like GM, which is just notorious for having a constant stream of bad ideas. All the ideas from the boardroom is just like an Amazon river of shit. Now, the new Mustang S650 isn't out yet, so we can't judge it too much, but we do have some stuff to go off of. Ford announced it a few months back and showed us what it looks like, and it looks pretty good. I'm not really a fan of the rear taillights. It kind of looks like someone dented the car, but aside from that though, it's a very good looking car. It's going to keep the same Coyote from last gen, and on the max trim level, the Dark Horse, it's going to get a power boost up to 500 horsepower. It gets the same 2 transmissions with either the 6-speed manual or the 10-speed auto. Another thing that we learned when we got the Focus RS is that Ford really wants their customers to swing that car sideways. And the new Mustang is no exception. You see, what would normally be a handbrake is now some kind of electric version of a hydraulic e-brake. When you rip it, it'll lock up the rear wheels and you'll get your tail end sideways. But instead of using a traditional cable e-brake setup, it uses an electronic setup, so idiots like me don't have to retighten our cables. The EcoBoost makes a return at the base model with a mid-level Coyote and, like I said before, the top trim level Dark Horse. Assuming that for all the trim levels, there will probably be performance options to help you go even faster. In addition to all of that, there are already spy shots of what is probably the new GT350 running around Ford's test tracks, which means it's still in early development, but still, it is definitely something to look forward to. And the S650 GT500 has been all but confirmed as well. We have a lot to look forward to with the new wave of Mustangs. Now, similar to the Camaro, it does have independent suspension, and is definitely more designed as a sports car than a traditional muscle car. However, that doesn't make it any less cool. However, unfortunately, after this life cycle, I honestly don't know if we'll get a pure V8 again. I mean, to be fair, I feel like every day a car company will say it's the last of the V8s that they produce, and then they walk it back like a month later and say that they want to keep making V8s. But I mean, this Mustang will probably be at the end of its life cycle by the end of this decade, and the emission regulations are only going to get more strict between now and then. I sincerely hope and pray that I'm wrong, but I mean, judging by the direction Dodge and GM are going, it's looking like it's probably going to be the last of the NA American V8s in muscle cars. I know GM said they're going to give a shot at developing a next-gen V8, but those are probably going to be engines for trucks, SUVs, and the Corvette, unless they bring back Pontiac. That's the only acceptable brand to bring back. I want a current-gen G8 GXP or a current-gen GTO. Make it happen.